People don't care about legacy, they care about connection. Risk doesn't bug me. I have a very high risk tolerance. I view risk as an opportunity to learn, grow, or succeed. If I do it and I fail, oh great, now I can learn.
I believe that every no leads to a yes. And the more no's you get, the closer you're getting to a yes. That means the next one's gonna be a yes.
I look for a no every day. In fact, the sale doesn't even start till I get a no. If someone's saying yes, 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 they're either already sold and that's an order taken, or they're pushing me off because they're like, I just don't want to talk to this guy.
You don't wanna look back at the end of your life and be in a place of regret for all the things you didn't try. We don't regret the things we try and fail in. We don't regret the things that we try and need to refine or grow or learn from. We only regret. Welcome back, everybody, to Flipping the Lid. You know what we do here by now. We like to jump in and have the real raw conversations with some of the most influential and impactful people on the planet. Now that comes in all sizes, shapes, and forms. And today I'm really excited because I have the privilege of having a very good friend of mine here today. He's somebody that I met 3 or 4 years ago through another friend at an event that I was speaking at. And then he avoided me for a while. And then I had the privilege of not only going on his show and building a friendship with him, but at some point in his journey, it seemed relevant that I also got the chance to work with him. And since then, our friendship has only deepened, and I've seen him grow and thrive and step into a whole bunch of different directions. But he breaks a lot of molds as it relates to who he is and how he shows up in the world. He doesn't fit within a singular box. In fact, that's one of the things that makes him so dynamic. He bridges the gap between both corporate enterprise sales and entrepreneur and impact maker, and works across audiences and channels that fit from Fortune 500 organizations all the way down to the solopreneur who doesn't know how to generate their first lead and land their first sale. But the biggest thing I love about this man is his heart and his integrity and the way that he shows up in the world to genuinely love on other people and advocate for those that need it, to use his voice in a way that lifts and empowers others. And Joe Graham, that's why you're in my life, brother, man. I love you in my life.
I love being in your life, and thank you for being here. That was a great intro. I'm like sitting there going, who's this guy?
Well, it's all bullshit. I made it all up. None of it's real. So everybody from this point forward can completely throw that shit out the window.
Yeah.
Look, you know this because here's the thing. Not only have you been a really good friend of mine, you've been a very strong supporter of mine for a very long time. And that's not lost on me in any way. And when I say you've been a strong supporter, that goes beyond just like being there for me. You've listened to most of the shows that I've recorded. You've consumed, you've promoted, you've made introductions. You've been active in my life for a number of years now. And especially when I had very few people listening to the show in the very beginning, you were one of the first. And you've been loyal and consistent that whole time. And so I have to acknowledge all of that before I jump in, because what you do know as a result of that is that I only ask one question to every single guest. Do you know what it is?
I do.
What is it?
Who am I?
In your words.
In my words.
Yeah, you're like a pro, man. So go ahead.
Well, I'm not going to give you the typical answer.
Yeah.
I've actually thought about this question a lot because I've listened, and I am enough. And I think that's the thing that most people miss. I'm enough with my faults, my failures, my brokenness, but I'm enough with the guy that can go talk to a CEO and get them to move. Like, I'm enough, even though I was a scared little boy that had issues and was afraid to talk to people, to now I talk to CEOs or CFOs or people that everyone thinks is big. And I'm just like, no, dude, just do this. It's there. I think so many times we get so caught up in positions and titles, which I could throw out. But for me now at this point, I've come to the fact that I am enough with who I am. And that right there is good, which will lead into I'm the father, I'm a husband, and all the other. But thinking about that question, I think so many people, entrepreneurs, business owners, anyone that's listening right now, you're enough. It's not what you do, it's who you are.
Yeah. Sitting here, I not only deeply appreciate that answer and the perspective and the intention that you put into it, but obviously knowing what I know and the journey that you've witnessed, I also know that that was not always a true statement for you.
Right.
I mean, even down to the nature of when you and I began to work together, it was one of the first times that you had ever actually made a significant investment in yourself to value yourself enough to do so. And so for you to be so clear in answering that question, I am enough today, is beautiful for me to witness and see and know that that's also real and congruent. But I'd love for you to kind of give a little bit of the contrast, because for you to so confidently and convicted say that in this moment, it's also with the acknowledgement that that wasn't always true. So you don't have to take us back all the way to the beginning right out of the gate. But if we focus on just the concept of I am enough, how long has that been true for you? And how did you ultimately navigate your own journey to allow that to be true?
I am enough is probably within the last 6 months.
Mm.
Before that, I've always been the people pleaser. I've always been the one to always put someone else first. Like investing with you
Yeah.
was the first time I actually really invested in myself. I went to a couple of events, but that's different. You're in a group. It's just taking a lot of time because we're the sum of our life, what we lived, what we were taught, what we were brought up. I was around a lot of narcissistic people. I was told I had to fit in this one mold, and I fucking don't fit molds. If you tell me I have to be a certain way, I'm the guy that's going to be like, why do I have to be that way? It doesn't matter. But I had a self-confidence issue, though I come across super confident. Like when I go into rooms, people think, why is this guy coming? Why does he just talk to everyone? But that was a facade for a long time. That for me was my armor. You talk about armor all the time. I would put the armor up that I was like a badass alpha. And I don't care to be a badass alpha. I care about people and how they operate and how they are. And then talking about myself is even hard for me at times. But looking back, I think it came down to, I finally got to the point where these people don't fucking matter. If it's not my family or super close friends of mine, they don't matter. Their titles don't matter. Their positions don't matter. What they think, it doesn't matter. And I had to actually start to love myself, which was hard because I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in a culture where men don't cry, men don't do anything but laugh or fight. That was it. And I'm a natural born fighter. I might not look like it. I've lost some weight, but like I'm not.
You're scrappy, bro.
I am scrappy. But here's the thing that I've realized, like I wouldn't trade what I went through because it's made me into who I am today. But I wouldn't wish what I went through on anyone else. Because again, I was the kid in like grade school that was the poor kid with the yard sale clothes. There was times my parents, we had like just tomato soup in a can with water, not milk, water. That was it. And they didn't eat. And then now I've taken my wife to Hawaii 5 times. I've done a lot of the cool things. But when I got to the place, I'm like, fuck, they said this would fix it. This would be what I needed. And I'd get there and I'm like, okay, it's cool. I like it. I love traveling, but it didn't fix it because you have to go inward.
Yeah. Well, I believe that. And I also share similar sentiment to even just the trajectory. And ultimately, once I had accomplished and gotten what I thought I was after, the level of disappointment that actually existed on the other side. When was that first moment of realization for you?
Probably the first President's Circle Award when I was with a Fortune 100 company, because I got there and I'm like, okay, they're taking me on a trip. They're doing this thing and it's not what they said. Or then I started getting around entrepreneurs like, oh, you got to talk to this person or that person. And I talk to them. I'm like, and I read people like you do. And it's like one of those things like, ooh, that's not what they are. And I don't do well with fake. Fake to me now, I don't have the patience for it. And it's probably because I used to be the fake guy.
Yeah.
But I think that's the first time I thought about it, or like it came into my thought was president circles or going on trips or meeting people. Yeah.
So just because I know that these things can look very different depending on the type of an organization. When you talk president circle at a Fortune 100 company, what kind of volume and sales targets are you having to hit to qualify for those types of things, at least in some of the initial organizations that you were in?
Well, I did it 4 years in a row. So
Beautiful.
You have to at least be over 100% to plan. The first year is at 152. The second year is at 168. The third year is 172. They raised the quota because I was doing well. And I think the fourth year is 168. 168% to plan. So if you hit their targets 100%, plus about 1.5 times what they said we were supposed to do.
You were sandbagging? I'm totally kidding.
No, I wasn't sandbagging.
I'm totally kidding.
I mean, I could even give you an idea.
I'm completely kidding.
No. I made them, because this was monthly recurring revenue. I would sell at the one company about 50,000 to 60,000 a year, but that would be monthly recurring. So if you added that up, I think over those 5 years, I made them 50 to 70 million, somewhere in that range.
Yeah. No. So I think that's beautiful. When I said you were sandbagging, it's only because I understand what goes into planning and budgeting and targets and right. Like we've got goals and then we actually have what we're budgeting. It's like the whole dynamic there is real. But what I do love is when you can outperform consistently. I have a feeling that wasn't something that applied just to sales in your life though.
No.
So where have you always focused on performance?
Everywhere. I've always gotten my acceptance because of what I did, not who I was. And that's why it's been this long journey, because I was taught young, if I acted right, there would be a reward. If I didn't act right, it would be bad. And then even when I got into church circles, and we've talked about this, it was always you have to do this to please this person right. And then all of a sudden God will bless you, which I think is bullshit. And I'll say that a billion times over and over again. Not church itself or Christianity.
Yep.
Like, I know a lot of good Christians, but I don't do well with the pimping out God phase. But I was in it. That's why I don't do well, because when I was young and you don't know shit, you go and you do your thing. And you're told, oh, if you do this, it will be there. And then that just went into all my dynamics. I was always worried about how people would think I was being or perceived, that I would put my front on. And I could be a chameleon. Like, I could act like any group I was in. In fact, I would have people say, bro, when you're hanging out with these people, you sound just like them. When you're hanging with these people, you sound just like them. And it was so fucking natural, which was weird, but it wasn't really me. And then I finally got to the stage where I'm like, fuck that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be me. If you like it, great. If you don't, great. And I don't care who you are. And that sounds cocky, but right now I'm at that point where I'm like good with it.
I don't think it sounds cocky. I think it sounds clear. I mean, at the end of the day, if somebody's not in alignment with you and you understand your worth and your value, that's just an acceptable boundary, right? I 100% completely agree with you. It's funny. This show is not about me. It's about you. And so I give that caveat before I say this, but you just reminded me, I had a sales call yesterday. I call them sales calls just because of the language that people identify with. I have a different belief in sales and selling. And I say different. It's aligned with yours. It's just terminology that I'm using in the moment. Anyway, I had a discovery call, and I knew in 10 minutes, I didn't want to work with this person. Like, it was absolutely crystal clear. There was not a path. And I still walked down with kindness and empathy, but I actually very clearly said to her, I don't think that there's alignment here. And I don't think that this is a pathway that's going to make sense for either one of us. I don't think that I can actually help you based on what I'm reading and what I believe you see in me, which is zero trust.
Yeah.
Right. And there was Fort Knox thick armor and all these different things. But then it was really funny because even on top of that, I had already asked how I could help. I'd already been discovering, and it was very clear this person does not need any help at all. They've got everything figured out. And so, cool. And so I'd gone through all this. And then after I exited and said we were done, they said, well, I'd never get off a call like this without asking how I can help you. I started laughing and I said, well, I don't think you know who I am. I don't think you have any clue what I do or how I help people. And I don't think that you have any perspective on any way that I actually move through the world. And so therefore, the only thing that would be helpful for me is introductions. And I don't believe that you can effectively facilitate those for me. I don't think you can do anything to help, but thank you for the question. And I wish you the best of luck. That's a boundary.
Mm-hmm.
It's not cocky.
Yeah.
But I, like you, for years was told that I was arrogant. I was cocky, right? I and all of these things. I know what it's from. You know what it's from because we've talked about it. How did you feel being associated with that term, cocky, arrogant, knowing in your heart that that was not your intent?
Oh, I hate it. Like, it makes me squirm. And I come from a cutthroat environment with sales, with corporate sales, that type of stuff. There are a lot of people that are cocky, that are that way. And people I know throw labels to make themselves feel better. But my intent is always to help people. Like, my intent is, and I've done that before with clients. I'm like, no, I can't help you. I'm not the right person. Like, I'm going to pay you. No, I won't. And if I'm working with a client, they're not in alignment, I just let them go. I have no problem with it. And I'm like, I'm nice about it. If you do X, I'm not going to do it because you have to have the boundaries. But the cockiness, I think it's because of the misconstruction of what masculinity really is. Because masculinity is, and I hate the word nice as well. If you call me a nice guy, that's going to piss me off. If you call me a kind guy, I'm great with it because kindness is controlled with what you're doing, where nice is just writing you off. I think you have to have the power to do things and be able to accomplish things, but you have to have the grace and the ability not to harm anyone else when you're doing it.
Yeah. I realize we went down this path of sales, but there's something that like has popped into my head 3 times since you referenced religion, and I have to go there.
Cool.
You know that I am of the type and belief that I'm very objective around all of it. I always say, don't let the lesson get lost in the language, right? Like, I don't care if it's God, the universe, the law, the source, whatever you identify it with, whatever you believe, whatever you worship, like, good. I have no belief that that's right or wrong on any front. And I am never the type that's going to tell anybody what they should or should not believe from a religious standpoint, ever. There's a lot of work that I do, though, with people to help unpack and understand the subtle implications of their formalized religion in terms of how it has impacted their psyche, their belief, their self-worth, their shame, their whatever, and to be able to redefine what those patterns look like. You were in a very restrictive religious group, organization, religion, however you want to call it, in your upbringing, and that was a big part of your past and a big part of your story that you referenced. Could you give us a little bit of insights into how do you describe the group that you were a part of and the indoctrination of the beliefs while you were being raised? And at what point did you realize that it no longer aligned with you and your belief system?
It was cult-like.
Okay.
It was the term would be like word of faith or super hyper faith. Like to give people context, if you give your love say gift to the pastor, then God has to bless you, which is bullshit. When I was young, I started when I was 16 and I just didn't have a clue what was going on. I was just in this cool youth group, and the youth group part didn't have anything with it. But then as it went along and you get into it, you would have to do certain things. It became almost like pastor worship, which I'm totally against. Jesus never preached that. He said, be the servant of all, not the leader of all. But in that certain group, that's what it was. And the only way you could be successful is if you were a preacher. So they tried to make me into a preacher. I'm not a good preacher because I could be, but I'm very good at reading and looking at the context. And I'm the weird dude that will go in, like I listened to, this was about a month ago, people arguing over Paul and Jesus' teaching, right? Just because I was just interested, it's this weird off-brand thing. When I started reading the Bible, I'm like, there's nothing in here about pimping out God or Jesus to do things. And so I was already covering things. I was already speaking. I was leading worship. I was leading prayer. I was doing all that type of stuff. And it wasn't congruent for me. It was just the box I was in. Well, then I started reading what the Bible said. I'm like, oh, crap. Well, I started saying what I was reading from the Bible instead of what they wanted to hear. And so when you hit an ego of someone that you do that with, they kind of rise up and they kicked me out. At the time, I was devastated, but it was the best thing that happened to me. But I wasn't free from the pattern. I wish that was the only time. So I moved to Texas thinking I was going to follow a different leader that had a different front. And in reality, he was the same thing, just with a different mask. So I went through it twice. The second time, I'm like, this is bullshit. I'm not doing this anymore. And I started doing the whole challenging my beliefs. If I don't challenge what I've been taught, is it really my belief or was it given to me? And since then, I've become more like you. I have friends that are spiritual. I have friends that are Muslim, that are Christian, whatever. And I think you're accountable to what you know. Because if you look back in history, and I'm a history nerd, so I will do this sometimes. What about all the Greeks and Romans before Jesus came? Do they just get screwed because God decided that he had to wait for Rome to build the roads? No, that's not. If you believe in God, spirit, universe, whatever, that doesn't line up congruently. But it was more just like, it became more pastor worship. You have to do these rituals and these things at the right time to be able to be accepted. And the guy never liked me. Like, he was an asshole to me most of the time, but I was thinking, because I had that, you get brainwashed, that, well, if I just endure, I just do this and God's going to bless me. I'm just sowing right in. It's garbage. It is to me now.
You just so beautifully articulated the whole reason that I help navigate religion with people is the distinction between the man-made interpretation of what God intended, or whichever religious structure was intended when the original scripture was written, and then the dilution of that through man-made's interpretation of those same words over time. And then however it's taught within that institution or structure, right? And often when you really get somebody to sit with something within their religion, a belief, right? Faith-based women is a great one. You know, you've got to be this way as a wife. You have to be this way as a faith-based woman. You have to, like, just all the narratives that can get wrapped up in any given religion, right? And again, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just simply saying where you challenge folks in those moments is, do you believe that's what God intended? Do you believe that was the original intent of the language and the words in the scripture? Or is that how it's being taught within your institution? And you even talking about it through the lens of a person who was on path to be a pastor brings even more light to that, because you could not speak even based on the scripture, even though that's what the religion is supposed to be based on, because it wasn't congruent with what the leaders of that church wanted you to teach.
Right.
I just want to let that sit for a second for people to, like, listen to, because I have brought that idea and concept to so many, but you said it so beautifully. And so I just wanted to recap it and rephrase it from that side, as well as honor. There are also a lot of really good pastors and preachers. In fact, we have a really good mutual friend, Mr. Chad Potts. I got to give him a shout out because the only reason I know him is through you. And I love him. And I love that he also preaches through the dynamic of teaching from scripture and his personal interpretation, regardless of whatever system he's in. And I love that. Joe, you have always been able to identify right and wrong, I believe, based on the stories I know about you. You didn't always have the courage to step into what you believed was right, always, right away, or you didn't see it right away. But typically, once you knew it or you saw it, you take action. You had a pretty big life change not long ago. And I'm going to say we're going to go not in a chronological order in any fashion here, but you talked about this big move to Texas to break the pattern. Well, you tried doing that again a couple of years ago and you had this big move to Arizona. Give us a little dynamics into where you were at in that period of your life, what was going on work-wise, entrepreneurial-wise, and what drove the move, and where do you find yourself today as it relates to your future path?
Well, and it's very interesting because I was bored at Spectrum. So I'm going to start with the work part. I was bored at the company I was at. I had set it up. Like I mentioned before, I'd won all the different awards and yada, yada. My sister had died randomly of cancer, which impacted me huge. And then our mother-in-law, my mother-in-law, which I was actually closer to my mother-in-law in a lot of ways because we've seen her more than my own mom and dad. And she randomly died. And we just had this whole dynamic. And I do some things on a whim. So we came out and visited. We met with you and your beautiful wife. And then we met with our friends. And we're like, oh, it'd be fun to be here. And I didn't even orchestrate it. Sometimes the universe does stuff for you. And it happened for me because I didn't orchestrate. I wasn't even applying or looking for jobs, just bored. And a buddy of mine that left Spectrum went out and said, hey, would you be interested in coming? I said, well, only if it's in Arizona because my wife thought about it, just in happenstance would do that. And he goes, you're not going to believe this. I'm sitting next to the senior manager over Arizona right now, and she needs someone. And you'll get to cover 3 states. And I'm like, okay, sure, I'll apply. And I didn't even do it. I didn't apply hard. Like I just applied and I did the interviews and like, you want to do this? And it happened within like 2 months. I'm like, okay, cool. We're going to go try it. And we got here and it's like, and it's changed since I talked to you last, Stephen, because we're still moving back and forth.
I'm getting an update.
well, here's the thing that most people don't understand. You have to try things out and see if you like them. And then you have to test out, well, why are you doing this and what is it going to accomplish for you? Well, my goal when I thought about it was I wanted to have a cabin in Montana, condos in Hawaii, and do all that stuff. And I'm not even sure if I want that at this point. But then I moved out here and my wife got a little bit homesick because my daughter still lives in Texas. And we're thinking, well, maybe we'll move back. And then now I'm at this point, and I'm always a fully transparent book. I'm not sure. We may stay here. We may move back. We haven't decided yet. But I'm willing to take the risk, even if it seems scary or it's not laid out right. Yeah. Because if I don't risk it, I don't want to get to back. This is really me. I don't want to get to the end of my days going, I wish I didn't like tried and did. I'm not going to be that guy. I'm going to just do it.
Well, I mean, regret minimization theory that Bezos popularized, right, is that whole concept, right? It's you don't want to look back at the end of your life and be in a place of regret for all the things you didn't try. Right? We don't regret the things we try and fail in. We don't regret the things that we try and need to refine or grow or learn from. We only regret when we didn't actually take the action. And that's one of the things that I've always appreciated about you. And I told you that even in the work that we did together, that's the people who have the greatest outcomes are the ones that actually like listen, absorb, and take action on it, which you did immediately and had major breakthroughs in a variety of ways as well, which was awesome. Risk is a big factor that scares a lot of people. I have my own beliefs and philosophies around risk. Both in terms of how I view risk, but also in how I will leverage or stack risk. I'd like you to talk about risk just as a factor for a minute, right? As it relates to sales or entrepreneurship or life. Like, how do you view risk? How do you evaluate risk? And how do you decide in the times that you believe that what might appear as risk is not actually risk? I realize that's a layered 3-step question. But I believe you're gonna.
I got you.
You're gonna crush it.
Risk doesn't bug me. I have a very high risk tolerance. I've done all the little tests or whatever. I like risk. Actually, if it's something that's hard, I want to try and do it. I view risk as an opportunity to learn, grow, or succeed. If I do it and I win, it's not exciting. Don't take that wrong because I've done it. Okay, it's not a big deal. If I do it and I fail, oh great, now I can learn because I think failure's fine. Failure's just learning. How I evaluate it, I have my wife balance me because she does not have a high risk tolerance. Like I would be the guy to go, oh, cool. You want to go run a marathon next week? Give me 2 weeks, and that's dumb. But she's like,
it's part of the reason you and I are friends
yes,
too.
yes. But she's like, okay, well, why don't we just plan this out instead? Which I listen at times, and sometimes I don't. And then I have to go back and go, you were right, love. I should have listened on that one. But I think it's because I've been rejected so much, it doesn't affect me because people are afraid of risk because they're afraid of what other people think. But if you're being congruent to you and what you need and what you desire to do or what you feel you're called to do, risk is just testing and trying that out till you get it fixed. That's entrepreneurship. People think that it's so scary, but it's scary because you care about other people's opinions and they don't fucking care. They're not paying attention to you. 99% of the people you're worried about aren't paying attention to you.
You also just embedded a masterclass in sales in that answer. Because part of your ability to continue to increase your risk tolerance is to literally, by definition, fail over and over and over and over again and learn through it. Right? I believe very much in a concept that I've used in sales for a long time. And I actually think you believe in the same thing, even though I don't think we've ever talked about this particular element. I teach people to chase the no.
Mm-hmm.
You knew exactly what I meant. Tell me what that means to you.
I look for a no every day. In fact, the sale doesn't even start till I get a no. If someone's saying yes, 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 they're either already sold and that's an order taken, or they're pushing me off because they're like, I just don't want to talk to this guy. I want to find a problem because I solve problems. That's what sales is to me. I'm going to solve your problem if it works. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to refer you to someone else, which a lot of people listening are probably screaming going, no, you don't. Yes, I do, because I'm not going to sell someone something that they don't want. But that comes back to you because they're going to refer people that actually you can.
Yeah. What's interesting about that? I really appreciated how you answered that question. I didn't think that's how you were going to answer it. So I'll tell you, not only do I agree with that, and that's a part of how I view it as well. The other side of it is I believe that every no leads to a yes. Mm-hmm. Meaning in sales, at the end of the day, if you get better, you learn, you improve, and your close ratio can go up, awesome. But at the end of the day, it's still a numbers game.
Yep.
And the more no's you get, the closer you're getting to a yes. Right. And that can be in an individual person, or that can be in the overall opportunity of like, oh shit, I got 5 no's from different sales opportunities this week, but that means the next one's going to be a yes, right? Like just the whole mentality. You've been a national award winning salesperson in multiple Fortune 100 companies. You have driven this. And in fact, not only are you an award winner in a lot of these, you often end up being the top 1 or 2 salespeople within an entire organization. And you do so, I think, for a variety of reasons that I believe, but I'd like you to just take a moment and give us your philosophy around sales and business development and relationships. And how have you learned this craft to be so successful in it, regardless of where you go?
I knew I wasn't the best in skills to begin with, so I had to learn. And the only way I could learn was what we call in the old school system of get bloody. Get on the phone, talk to the person, do the thing. I think what ended up happening was I started developing confidence, and I have a chip on my shoulder. I don't like to lose. There's this thing. Do you love to win or hate to lose? I hate to lose. I am that guy. I don't want to lose. I want to win. I'm just that dude. And no one's going to outwork me. When I put my mind to something, it's game on. Let's go all the way. I don't care what I have to do to beat you. I have a Kobe mentality. You have the Jordan and the Kobe. I'm the Kobe guy. I'm going to out practice, outwork you, outdo everything so I can craft my story. But the thing most people forget is that they try to pitch the person instead of listen and find out what is it that you actually need. I sell the solution to the person. I don't pitch my company. I don't bring my company up. If I'm talking, I'll use this as an example. If I'm talking to a chief technology officer, I'm talking to them about bandwidth issues, cyber threats, what's going on, what's their new initiatives. I don't bring up what I'm doing until I know what they're doing. Then say, hey, I can help you with X.
Well, and the secondary piece of that is you said it in the prior answer, but it's also relevant to this one. You are actually trying to figure out how you can help them, whether or not it's actually your solution that can help them.
Right.
And that's a big distinguishing factor that I find extremely important, because that's not selling. That's trying to solve problems. Mm-hmm. That's actually trying to add value, up to and including sending them to another place or a perceived competitor if you really aren't the best fit for them. A lot of salespeople have a difficult time doing it. Why do you think they have a difficult time doing that? And what have you learned, or what do you teach others to overcome that dynamic?
They have a difficult time doing it because they don't have a big enough pipeline to actually not try and convince someone to do a thing. I teach people, find as many people as you can help as possible. The more people you have that you can touch, you don't have to worry about them, the one or two deals. So then you can actually help them. Now, a lot of organizations would not like what I'm saying here because they want you to take every dollar, but sales is relationships. Sales is networking. Sales is connecting human to human. It's like what we've done for thousands of years. And it's not a bad thing. It becomes a bad thing because we watch stupid movies that they use mental manipulation, or you follow certain people that went to jail for using this system. And then, we're going to use this system. He went to jail for a reason. You have to take care of the person first because people can read you too. Everyone's going to you get like 4 seconds on the phone to convince someone in about 15 seconds in person if they even like you. So you either have to trust, then they buy from you. But too many times people come and think that they're stuck on what are they doing or how can I get them to do something, which is manipulation, instead of how can I help Brian today?
Yeah.
What is it that you need that I can bring value to? But then guess what? I can sleep at night. I left a job. I was making really good money selling oil and gas until I found out the wells didn't work. I literally left a job, ended up on food stamps, doing Uber, and doing a crappy ass sales job because my integrity meant more to me than not. And everyone's like going, what the fuck is he doing? You know what it did? It qualified me to get me into the Fortune 100 company that I won the 4 President Circles Awards. It qualified to get me into the Fortune 50 company I work for now. And I think it comes down to simply this. You have to think about your customer first. This is where the customer is always right. It's not the customer's always right. They're going to be wrong at times. But when you're selling them or finding a solution or a pain point for them, that's where the customer is always right. What can I do to help you? And then don't screw them over because your reputation is everything. Your brand is everything. You can fuck that up in 2 seconds.
Yeah. I had not heard the numbers or the stats that you just referenced, the 4 seconds on the phone or the 15 seconds in person. Did that come from somewhere? Is that your assessment personally? Is that a study? Do you know? And by the way, I'm not testing you. I'm just curious because I'm going somewhere with this.
The 4 second, I did learn that from Jordan Belfort a long time ago.
Okay.
So, and that is true. Like I've done more phone sales than face to face. You get
I
4
agree.
seconds.
You get 4 to 5 seconds max.
If you're a girl, hold on here, ladies, I'm going to give you a tip. If you're a girl, you get 6 seconds because most of the guys who are in power, because right now still most of the people you're talking to are guys, they'll listen to a lady over you. So you use everything you can. If you're a lady, you get 6 seconds. In person, they judge you within the first 15 seconds.
So I agree, and those are the things that I've experienced as well. And those were the areas that I would spend most of my time. It's almost like the idea of like, if I've got 4 hours to chop down a tree, I'm going to spend 3.5 sharpening the axe, right? Like those were the skills and the approaches that I would refine and iterate on early in my sales career. Almost all of my sales in my history came from cold calls, right? Similar to you, right? And that was actually something I was very proud of. Because what it also meant is I didn't have to rely on once my network started actually giving me referrals, I still knew how to cold call. So I still had that and I was able to supplement. But I had to get really good in, to your point, 4 to 10 seconds. And there are a lot of people who teach scripting, who teach this is how you open up every call, who say this is how to do it. One, what's your philosophy and how do you teach others to capture the attention in those time frames? And then 2, how do you personally do it?
Well, scripting works good for B2C. If you've got a lot of, like you're just talking to a consumer, like you're door knocking, you're making calls, that's fine. It's entry-level sales. You need to do scripting to begin with because you don't know what to say, and that's why you freeze up on the phone. When you get into the B2B world, they've heard it. You can't hit them with that. You have to come with something that's going to hook them, that's like the sales term, in the first little bit, or they're not going to do it. And I base it off of the persona of who I'm talking to. I'm talking to a CEO, I'm talking to him about his vision. If I'm talking to a chief financial officer, I'm talking to him about finances normally. If it's an operations officer, what projects are you having coming up? Tech, you have to know the person. It's like dating. And I've said this on podcasts before, but true salespeople go to the bar at 7 o'clock, pick up the girl, and are at home by 8 because they can close them. Most of you are order takers because you're waiting for the leads to come in or for them to pick someone. You're the guy at 12 or 1 waiting for whatever girl's left that didn't find someone.
What I also really appreciate is you just called it true salespeople versus order takers. There's a lot of people that call that inbound versus outbound sales, but I love the way you say it so much better because it's true,
Yes.
right? Like
Yes.
there are people who can close, but they're inbound, right? They're order takers, and could they still lose it there? They could, right? They could, but the hunting is where I find the hardest part in all of it to be, and I genuinely believe that opening the door, at least in my experience and the way that I see things, I believe opening the door is the hardest part, which comes down to the 4 seconds of attention.
Yeah.
So you just said I focus on who I'm talking to. So let's just assume I'm a CEO and you're calling me right now. What's your 4 seconds?
Well, it depends on what industry. So I got to go back.
Qualify it. I love this. So ask better questions.
I have to have industry specific.
Okay.
Because I need to know what industry you're in.
Okay.
Because CEOs for like a tech company are going to be different than a hospital or a manufacturing company.
I am going to say that I am a CEO in a hospital.
Perfect.
And you and I have an introductory call in a meeting, but we've never met each other. And you can assume you're at T-Mobile or anywhere else you want for the moment.
So I've already got you on a meeting.
You're getting me. We've never spoken. We have a quick call. You're getting my attention. It's not a cold call.
Oh,
not a cold call.
You know I'm calling you.
I know you're calling me.
And you're a healthcare provider.
How do you get my attention
Gotcha.
in the 10 to 15 seconds?
I would base it off of what I know you're doing because I would research the company. So if you're a healthcare provider, I would look into the company and go, hey, Brian, I know you're over XYZ healthcare company. I don't know if you know this, but T-Mobile just partnered with Boston Children's Hospital. We just actually changed their whole systems to where they're not having, where the customer experience is better. Now, again, we're doing this off the cuff. I know we are.
I know we are. But here's what I also just heard. And again, you're a master. Okay. And so I'm going to slow this down for the folks that don't see all of what you just did there. You obviously quickly established credibility. You quickly gave a reference to somebody that is noticeable, that they would know that you already provided a solution for, whether or not that solution is specific to them. And you didn't assume they knew. You said, I don't know if you know this, but we just did this. And you also then led into other opportunity to then start to ask questions. But you keyed into very quickly, how do I get their attention? How do I show social proof and credibility? And how do I make sure that they know that I'm not just Joe Schmo working out of my fucking basement around the corner?
Yeah.
Right? Now, that's from an established meeting. You're right. You had that. Now we're going to have a cold call. Now I'm a CFO of a manufacturing company and you know nothing about me. First question I have for you is this is a philosophical piece. I am the type and believer that I actually do little to no research before a cold call. There are others who believe that you research a lot before a cold call. What's your belief on that and why? And then I want you to cold call me.
Sure. I hardly research. I just want to know and I'll look at the name of the company to know what it is.
Okay.
And I can base it off of that.
Why?
Because I have an established relationship and I want to know what they say about them, not what their website or their brand does, because I'm selling the human, not the brand.
Perfect. Now you're going to cold call me.
And you're a CFO of a manufacturing company.
Yep.
Perfect. Hey, Brian, Joe Graham, real quick, I have some good news for you. Oh, crap. I got to think again.
Yeah, this is
You
good.
got me.
See,
He got
good.
me. He got me. Okay, so CFO, manufacturing company. Hey, Brian, Joe Graham. Real quick, I wanted to reach out to you. I've been working with organizations like yours that have been having some issues with their inventory management and like the efficiencies with that. Now, I know you're the cost guy because you're a CFO, but would it make sense or could you give me an introduction to your facilities manager so that I can maybe bring this to them? It would save you money and make it more efficient.
Beautiful. Love it, dude.
I just had to think for a second because
I'm obviously I'm playing with you a little bit right now because I love this and I love the ability to even role play and just show some real time examples. But what are you also doing? You're demonstrating the years of experience that you have in being able to navigate quickly in an introduction and in a way to make a connection in a way that uses language that will specifically speak to whomever you believe is on the other side based on the profiles of people that fit that spot.
Yeah.
You're compressing pattern recognition down into 5 seconds. And you're doing so in a way that's hopefully going to compel them to have some level of intrigue that isn't like everybody else. Now, I love that you just went through that path. I am a big believer in not researching before cold calls as well, because not only of all what you just said, but you don't even know if they're going to fucking pick up the phone.
Right.
Right. Not only do you not know if you're going to pick up the phone, but I mean, there were days with cold calling where I have made 100 calls and no one answered. Literally 100 plus calls, not a single answered phone, right? I always looked at my cold calling in the way that I would organize things through number of calls, number of answered calls, and then I would evaluate based on answered calls, the success or failure, or how do I evaluate it? How do you look at the stats and the data to either refine your own approach to cold calling and lead generation? And how are you using that to teach others? Again, both in the people that you mentor in the corporate space, but in the people that you coach as entrepreneurs who are learning to do this in a way that they haven't had the privilege of leveraging someone else's balance sheet to do so.
Right. I look at it a little bit different. I look at it as planting seeds. So when I cold call, I leave a message every time if there's a voicemail.
You do?
On purpose. A lot of people don't do it, but I want them to know, because I have a system I do. So I don't just cold call. I'll cold call them. I'll email them. I have like a 7-step system, like 4 emails, 3 cold calls.
Okay.
In a process. The first one, I'm talking to them about them, their needs. The second one is going to be something to their industry. The third one is going to be kind of like a breakup one. Like, hey, Brian, I've reached out to you 3 times. I sent you some emails. If you're interested, I would love to talk with you. I'm busy too. Maybe right now is not a good time. Call me back. Because if you take something away from them, that is going to draw people. Because if you tell them they can't have something, they're going to want it more likely. But I just have always been of the thing, success is boring. I'm more consistent. There's been times I've done 200 to 300 cold calls in a day.
Yeah.
That was just the rule I was in. I don't want to do that, but I can do it. But I know that there's a time when you're prospecting, when you're first starting out, you just have to, I'm not hustle culture anymore. I was that guy. But there is a time and there's a place for when you just have to dig in and call and do the things that you need to do, because so many people quit. Yeah. If you just outlast people, you win. And then the stats and the numbers, I only control my inputs. I can only control what I'm doing. I can't dictate what they're doing. So that's why I add more inputs in. Yeah. And then when I get people into the game, because I look at it like a game.
It is.
When I get them into the game, then we start talking. Okay, cool. Now you're in this bucket. Now you're in this bucket. And then I just like to have such a big pipeline. And I'll say this again and again. If you have a big enough pipeline, you can sell with confidence and not worry about it because you're not stuck.
I agree. It's one of the 3 pillars that I typically talk around is just abundance, right? Like if you actually have enough activity going on, nothing ever relies on a singular deal.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be attached to it. You can operate with high intent. You can really move in all the ways that you've discussed. I'm going to move us away from sales here in a second, but I have to ask one more thing because of what you just said, because it made me smile. I am a lot like you, no surprise, in a whole variety of ways in the way that I've operated in sales in the past. And I was the guy that was the grinder that would make 250 or 300 calls in a day if I needed to. Now, the privilege to be able to do that was only available early in my career when I had nothing else going on. Right? Like brand new, trying to build a business, trying to build sales, and it was like literally the most important and likely legitimately the only thing I needed to be doing was prospecting. And I would often, when I would train new salespeople or I would bring them into our organization, it's like they would like be burned out on sales after 50 calls or something. And I'd be like, God, I wish I had the day to just make 200 calls sometimes. Cause like I know also how energizing it can be and how much it can actually produce real-time results. Just a few grind sessions like that alone, but then consistently strung together over time. I want to understand again, your ability to see the difference between entry-level beginning salespeople and more established ones, time, priorities, and focus. And let's just say for a second, you're speaking to somebody that knows nothing about sales. You've got the 7-step system. I want to better understand that. Like, just give us the steps, like literally how Joe does it. And then as a brand new salesperson, what is the philosophy? What is the activity? What are the disciplines that you believe to be most important to set themselves up for success over time?
They have to be teachable. First and foremost, they have to actually have a hunger to do it, because a lot of people love the idea of what they think salespeople get. They don't understand the work, the grind, the stuff you have to do with it. So I'm going to tell you right off, it's not for everyone. It's a hard job. It's entrepreneur light. You have to kill to eat. They just cover the implementation. That's the only difference in my mind. Like, I got a base salary, but I don't pay attention to that. I only pay attention to the other. And then I'm like, in the beginning, you're going to be making a bunch of calls, Brian. Are you willing to make 250 calls a day? I'll start with that. If you're not, this is not for you. And I'll tell you, it's not for you. My system works because it's consistency, time, and the right messaging. If you don't do all 3, you're going to lose. Is it going to happen in the next week or 2? No. It's probably going to be what you do now is going to show up in 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
And if you're not okay with that, I'm not your guy. because I'm not going to sell you some holy water, some fake thing that's not going to work for you. And then I would go into my system, like with that, I'll do an email first, then I'll follow up, because then you can even set it up like this. Hey, Brian, did you get the email I sent you on XYZ? It's just a little hook. But that first email, that first call is always about them and their company. The second one is about their industry or a need I've maybe seen that they have, or a need that the industry have. Because I don't do a lot of research, but I know certain industries have certain things.
There's patterns.
Yep. So they have that. Then there's my next call, which I may throw a promo in if we have one. I'm not a really big promo guy, but I might be like, hey, we're doing a 10% off. I just didn't want to tell you up front because I like to get shot straight, just like you. I'm not going to tell you at the end if you do it today. That's not how I operate. Again, I'm building credibility just in a different way. And then the third one is just the third email is set more on what I think that we can do for them if they haven't picked up yet. And then the third call is just to follow up. And then I do a breakup email. But I put them back into the system about 3 to 6 months later. We're not done. And then I know what that group is and I change it because they need to get to the point where they know you're going to be there. Most salespeople don't make it in a role for 2 years. So if you're there for 3, you're an expert. If you're there for 5, you are like the master. They're like, holy crap. I've gotten deals from time to going, hey, have you talked to your rep lately? No. Oh, okay. 3 months later, hey, have you talked to your rep lady? No, not yet. 6 months later, I'm trying to help you, man. Has your rep even reached out? No. Oh, we're about to do I actually had a client, and I can't say who it is, but I had a client in a big business say to me, he hadn't talked to his rep in 6 months. And my manager's there. She goes, well, they'll reach out to you now. He goes, well, it's too late because you're trying to establish a relationship with me and he won't even do it until I'm going to be walking away. That's not true relationship.
Yeah.
And that's just such a key.
It is. There is a concept that I learned, and I wish I could credit the source. I can't. It's one I've adopted, and I believe it and I teach it. And I think that sales is one of the greatest places that it applies. I believe in this concept of what I call legacy loyalty and earned loyalty. And you just implied a lot around that. How have you used, I haven't even explained the concept, but I'm sure you understand where I'm going with this. How have you used that concept both for yourself to ingratiate and create stickiness and sustainability in relationships so that there's always earned loyalty? And how do you leverage and create a wedge against legacy loyalty?
Well, I'll do the earn one first because I can control that one.
Yep.
By showing up, by being consistent, by still doing it over and over and over again. It's the secret. And I will give Hormozy this one. The long game is the secret. That is the key on that. You have to be willing to, and it has to always be about them. That's why I use the dating analogy. It has to be about them. It can't be about you or they don't care. They don't care that T-Mobile has the best 5G network. They don't care that Brian is the best speaker out there. They don't care about any of that. They care about how does it affect them?
Yep.
So when earning the right, I'm earning the right every time I ask a question or get information. And I'll do they call it trial closing, but I'm like, hey, can you give me your bill so I can help you with that and just see if I can get you a better door? Or, hey, this may work for you. Can I do this? Because you're getting them to say yes, but not just yes.
Yeah.
And you open them up. Legacy is just because the brand was built and it was established and someone else already earned the right. But if they don't keep the right, they lose the right because people don't care about legacy. They care about connection.
Yeah. You articulated that beautifully. And I think that's where a lot of salespeople are very short-sighted as well, is that they really do operate in a honeymoon period and they don't consistently show up. And that's a big gap. How important are effective questions?
Through everything. If you do it right in the presentation and when you're talking to them, I have the shortest presentations and I don't hardly talk during my things. I'm asking questions. I'm super curious about the customer and their needs to the point that we're not even talking about my product or service till the very end that may help them. But I want to go deep into the world because if you go deep in the world, holy crap, this guy cares about my scanner solution, or holy crap, this guy cares about who I am as a person. It opens them up so much more.
Yeah. You have touched and have had your hands in a variety of different things, right? Obviously, sales is kind of what you're most known for, but I also know there's a lot more to you than sales. One of the things that I appreciate, and we've talked about both in just our friendship and in life and in this overall path, after your sister passed, you jumped into the podcasting game. And a lot of the concepts that you're discussing, right, whether it's effective question asking or how to continue to show up for people or how to connect them with the right folks or how to help them identify they've even got a problem, apply in multiple areas in life. First of all, you're a very good podcast host because of effective questions, I believe. There's a level of curiosity and wonder that shapes this. I'd like you to give a little bit of insights into the contrast or alignment and comparison, however you want to see it, between sales and podcasting.
It's relationship. It's the same thing. And actually, I started podcast about a year and a half before my sister passed.
Was it a year and a half?
Yeah, because it was at George's event right after that I started it. But it's all good. That's
maybe
fine.
I got my timeline mixed up. I thought that you went in and maybe it was you just doubled down on your podcast afterwards.
I did. I started pushing more.
Okay.
I changed. So, Liz Benny, I think, from George's thing.
Yeah.
And she told me to come out from behind the curtain. So I always need to give people credit where credit's due. Because she's like, Joe, you're more than the 150K. You're more than just sales and business. So I came out from behind the curtain and I've had a lot more people on. But it comes down to curiosity. I love really good stories. I mean, a geek out here. I'm a Doctor Who fan. He says we're all good stories. We're all stories in the end, make it a good one. And I just want to find out about people. And since I did that, it went from just business owners and super successful people to I had a moon geologist on. I've had health people on. I have fitness people on. I'm just curious about cool stories. And I'm indifferent to their personas or what they want to do. I will give you no questions. I've had people want questions. Nope, I'm not giving you any questions. My only thing I ask your friend, is there anything you don't want me to talk about?
Yeah.
Besides that, I just listen and I, like you, and I just go off of what we're talking, where the conversation goes, it goes. And I think that's what people want. They don't want the cookie cutter. I can give you 5 steps to sales. No one gives a fuck about that except for the people that see the Lambo boys, and I'm not attracting them anyway.
Yeah. Well, and I think where I was going with this is, though, I know you do a lot of coaching around sales. You've helped people design systems around sales. You've helped people recruit and hire and implement sales people and sales systems to be more successful on top of what you do day to day in producing high level sales within a large organization. But in the time that I've known you too, I've seen and witnessed a shift in your focus, which is, it seems to be much more grounded in quality of life than, and discovery of self than in just following a sales playbook, for lack of a better term. That, I think, is where I would really like to explore for a minute, right? Like, I know podcasting was a part of that. There's other pieces that have been a part of that. But I would suggest that this shift has probably been in the last 5 years for you.
100%.
Okay. So talk about that dynamic. Like, what has shifted for you in the last 5 years? And what do you think has been the most profound impact of that shift?
Investing in myself, which was hard. Like the first event I went to, my wife told me I had to because I wasn't investing anything in myself. So have the right partner that will believe in you, because that makes all the difference. Second, I've done a lot of inward work that I wasn't doing. I was always like wearing the fronts, and I finally got tired of it. And I was like, well, what does waking up to a life I love actually mean? Not what someone else says it has to be or whatever. And I know people that are multimillionaires that are miserable, and I know people that make $60,000 a year that are happy, and vice versa. It's not the money thing, it's the intent and the heart. So I started just searching. What do I really want? So I had to challenge my beliefs. Do I believe this? Does this make sense? Or is this just something someone taught me? And I do it with all my different things. I invested with you, and we went in and dealt with some shit I had to deal with, which was not easy to do. But again, you did that. If we're talking to sales, I seen you talk, I seen you operate, and you were always authentic and you were always true, which for me is how I read people. Like I can judge a person like 2 to 3 seconds. I'll be nice to everyone if I need to, but there's certain
you'll
people
be kind. You'll be kind, not nice.
No. In this regard, it's nice because some of them don't get my kindness.
Okay.
Some of them, like, we joked earlier.
I just heard that, so I was like, I was like, bro, you just said this earlier, and now you're going the other way.
No. The difference there is this: is no one wants to be labeled a nice guy, because that means you're a pushover. You can get taken advantage of. That was what that was.
It was my ADD taking over.
No,
sorry.
you're good. But I had to start doing a lot of self-evaluation. I started doing breath work. I started doing walks. I did a cold plunge. I did other things. I tried what works for me. But then if it didn't work for me, I let it go. Some certain people were in my life in the beginning of this phase that I don't really talk to now. They're not bad people. I'm just not at that level now. I'm actually having to grow and develop my community and who I am and who serves me, and figure out. And I really don't think I have it all the way 100%. I'm still striving. What is it that I really want? Because remember, I told you, I want a cabin in Montana and condos. Like I like the condo idea. Montana's beautiful, but it could be Colorado. I don't care. What is it that what makes me happy? And I still think I'm just still deep diving into it because as a man, I've always been told, protect, direct, help others. That's your role.
Yeah.
You don't matter. And now I've gotten to a point where no, I fucking matter.
Yeah,
and if I fucking matter, then I can do things that I like and want, which I know you're smiling because when we first started talking, I was always like, hey, Brian, how are you? How can I help you? Hey, Tim, how are you? How can I help you? Because I had this false humility and I hate that now. I see it so badly because it was in me.
Yeah.
That now it's just that journey of what is it I want to do? So when people are like, hey, I want to start a business and become an entrepreneur, why? Do you want time and freedom? Or do you really feel the need to build something? And then I had to break it down. You go be a sales guy because you can actually get more time and freedom that way than doing the grind. Do you want to do implementation? Do you want to do all the accounting and all stuff? Because in the beginning, you got to do it all. Or if you were with the team, you don't. And just finding what works for you. And I've helped a lot of people more that way. They come to me for sales, but then we get talking and I'm like, dude, you need to do what makes your heart happy.
Yeah.
That works and still align with you. You still got to get a job and still got to pay for it or still build a business. But that's been kind of the progression. I keep going deeper in it. But I don't think you ever arrive.
I always say there is no final destination, just constant evolution of self, right? Like, and you're experiencing that and it's just different layers. It's just deeper, different layers, more progress, more growth, sometimes a little regression, then a little bit of growth, right? Like it is the dynamic of how we face things. But I have witnessed you literally take the bull by the horns in your own life in the last few years. And I say that with the full understanding as well that you're still deciding in some ways, right? I know I've had some really direct conversations with you where I've been like, dude, get the fuck out of your own way. Like, stop being a jackass. Like, get clear here, take action, do something. And most of the time, you're already doing that. So when I say I've done that in moments, that's the exception for you because you are somebody that just integrates and implements. You have taken this, though, to a whole different level where you had convinced yourself of what you believed you wanted and what you thought your path was. And what I love is that when you actually committed to make it happen, you realized it wasn't the path you wanted. And this wasn't that long ago. And so the reason I'm highlighting that is because we always reserve the right to make a change or to choose a different path. But this is the piece I want to hone in on for you. What did you think you wanted? And when was the moment that you realized it wasn't?
Well, I thought I wanted to do like just sales coaching as my business and do that thing. And I realized I don't love sales that much. I'm just really fucking good at it.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't mean I don't sales coach. I'm very selective now, but the cool thing is I don't have to worry about, I got to go out and get
But it doesn't have to be the only thing you do, which is where you were headed.
Right. Because I was thinking, I had that stupid thought in my head. I only can be an entrepreneur. That's the only way you can be successful. Ignoring all my successes in the corporate world, ignoring all my successes in anything I do, I'm really good at it. I always rise to the top. I always am like the second co-leader in a thing. I have leadership things that just come out.
Yeah.
Do I want to be a sales manager? No, because I don't want them to make my money for me, but I'll help anyone that I can do.
Yeah.
And I went into that path. I really want to speak more one to many. I can do one-on-one, but anyone doing it now, it's a lot. Unless you're a really good friend of mine, I'll cut you a deal because you're a good friend of mine and I got it. Because I don't need the money. It's not based off of that. And that's the first thing you have to understand. When you're building a life you love, figure out how you're going to fund it so that if you're trying something out, you don't have to rely on that money because then you're stuck in a different job.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm taking a complete hard turn in this moment. I'm only wearing this shirt because of you today. Tell me about your grumble.
So my wife loves dogs and collects dogs. We have 5 pugs and 1 black lab right now. When we moved here, we had 6 pugs and a black lab. They're all rescues. I say that because I don't breed and I don't like breeders. So don't hear what I'm not saying. If you breed dogs, whatever, you can do what you want, but it's just not my thing.
Yeah. You just don't purchase your own animals that way.
No, they're all rescues.
Yep.
So, we fell in love with the first. Here's a good sales story. I sold a roof and we got our first pug. The guy goes, the only way I'm buying this roof, because I got his wife to buy the, extended, more expensive one, is if you take that pug, because I hate the pug. And that was our first pug, which his name was Oliver. And we love Oliver. So I was like,
you got your first pug, just close the deal.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
And I called my wife and said, hey, babe, do you want a pug? it would really help me out if we could take it. And she's like, dog. She's like, and we had a German Shepherd at the time. And she's like, cool, we'll get one. And so we picked him up. It was like a $13,000 deal. I got $1,300, which at that time was super significant. Now, if I'm making $1,300 off a deal, I'm pissed. It's levels. Everything is levels.
It's all perspective. Dude, levels. I get it.
But then we ended up getting, the last 4 we got, which they're pug, chihuahua, and border collie, but they look like just miniature pugs.
Mm-hmm.
After my sister died, this is how crazy I am sometimes. We were driving back from Michigan to Texas. We were at Texas time. And we went the long way to Nebraska because my wife had a friend who was given a dog. But she couldn't, and the dog had puppies, and she couldn't take all of them. So us being dog people are like, oh, we'll pick them up. We'll give 2 to the pug rescue and keep 2. I have 5 people in my family. Well, 6, but we already talked about, you and I have talked about the miscarriage thing before. And they all picked a different dog. So what am I going to do? I can't tell my oldest, you can't keep your dog, but my son, you can keep your dog. So we ended up getting those 4. And Pete was a rescue too. He was the regular size pug we have. So it's just, we collect dogs. It is what it is. I told my wife 6 is enough right now. And we're going to have to let some of them go 10 to 15 years from now before you add any more. I do love pugs though. Either you love pugs or you hate them. They're just that type of dog.
So, we're animal people too, right? Mm-hmm. And so we've got 4 dogs and 2 cats. So we're about the same number of animals. This is the first pug I've ever owned though. And, we've got the one-eyed pug that I named Winks that was also a rescue. And I have fallen in love with this dog. We will have pugs again in the future. But speaking of cults, I feel like pug owners are basically a cult.
They are.
Is this true or not?
Yes.
I didn't ever realize this until we owned one, and then we're out in public with a pug. And oh my God.
Yeah.
Tell me what your experience has been with this pug cult.
Oh, we okay. This is first and foremost. This is a cult I'm proud to be a part of.
I am too.
And
I am too at the moment.
The
it just shocked me.
It's fine. They're such a weird dog. They have their own personality. Their owners are typically weird, and you and I are weird, so it's fine. We push edges. We do. But pug owners, it's like just this family. If you see they have a pug, you know they're good people because pugs will drive the hell out of you at times because they want to eat. They want to sit on you. You can't go to the bathroom without one of them being there. And then they decide who they like at the time. Like when I got home last night from a trip, I just got back in from Colorado Springs. All 5 of them came out and were jumping on me, knocking me down. I have a little mark from about a month ago when I had come back and the big one got me on accident. But they're such good, caring dogs. Like Rosie, when my wife and I went through like the deaths in the family, we got the dogs right after my sister died. I forgot that part. So we got the dogs after my sister died. They became a therapy dog for us.
Yeah.
Like Rosie pretty much would just sit in our lap and we would just hold her. Tony's really my dog, but Rosie became like, she just would know. Like I didn't have to say a word. She would just sit there and I would just hold her and it would just be like cathartic. And I like dogs more than people. I know that's funny. Here's another crazy thing. I'm an introvert. Everyone thinks, with your sales guy, you're like, I am not. I am probably the most introverted sales guy out there. My wife looks at me at times and goes, you need to go for a walk. Yeah. You need to have space because if I don't, it's bad.
I used to believe I was an extrovert, but I'm not. I'm an extroverted introvert. Yeah. Like it is insane.
Ambivert. Yep.
It is insane to me how much I actually am and how much I didn't know it for years. Mm-hmm. For those who don't know, I asked him about his grumble, and a grumble is the official term for a household with multiple pugs.
Yes.
It is a pack of pugs. Literally, that is by definition what it is, and you have a pack of pugs.
And the black lab who feels left out, but we still love her and pat her, but she wishes she was a pug.
And only because we're dorks and we're talking about our pugs, and I'm totally okay with that. I did research on this, but I think were one of the first people who mentioned this to me. What were pugs originally bred for?
To protect kings in China. And then they also believed that they could protect them from evil spirits. That's why you'll see pugs will try to sit on top of your head because that's what they were trained to do.
Yeah, they were literally bred to be lap dogs, right?
Yep. Well, and then also, if you have 2 really big dogs, assassins could come in and probably cut them down. If you have a grumble and you have 10 to 12 pugs, no one's getting in. It is the most effective way of protection. I mean, it might have annoyed the emperor or the king, but if you have 10 to 20 little dogs just barking and screaming if anything new comes in, It was perfect. No assassin could get them when they're in their sleeping quarters.
Oh, the issue is I'm not sure a pug could actually attack anything.
But it wasn't that job. They just had to bark. And they might have rolled over to get their bellies rubbed because they love people. But if the guards hear that many dogs barking, they're going to come see what's going on.
No, it's totally spot on. I I just had never thought about it that way, but you're right. Dude, I absolutely love that. I got to know what's lighting you up most these days.
The self journey. For me right now, I am on a journey to find out who I really am at 47 that I've not done. And that's lighting me up. And then meeting cool people. Like, I think for so long I was so fake that now that I'm more being genuinely 100% me and still people love me and people still say, oh, you're a badass or whatever, it makes me feel good because before I'm like, oh, you're saying I'm a badass, but I'm really faking you out here. So that self journey is lighting me up the most.
That's like really huge what you just said though. And not just in your lived experience of it, but I actually want you to go a little bit deeper on it. What is the difference in how people receive you, are attracted to you, and connect with you when you are living as unarmored, authentic, and aligned as you are now versus the performance of before?
I'm going to caveat this because the performance, I was a really good fucking performer.
I believe that.
So people might not see the difference, but I feel the difference.
That's all I care about. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I feel the difference because if I'm acting for you and I have to do certain things for you to love me, accept me, whatever, it's hard. It's work. But if I'm just confident in who I am and my abilities, me, which is taking a long time, but now it's like the connections are deeper. Now it's like they're more open and they tell me more stuff or they'll just tell me about their life or stuff because when you are willing as a man to go out there and I'm going to caveat this with this too. I deal with CEOs, CFOs of multi-million dollar, some billion-dollar companies. I deal with sales guys, or as I call them, sales weasels, who all have super big egos and always are trying to project. Like that's just who I deal with, cutthroat to the core. And when you come authentically you and you don't care and you just are there, like I had one of our directors look at me and goes, I like you. When I first met you, he's just like, I like you. For some reason, I like you. And after I did my QBR quarterly business review, he's like, you're an assassin. I go, I like that. I can go with that. But it wasn't like I wasn't projecting anything. I didn't care. I wasn't worried about the questions because I knew who I was. And when you're confident in who you are, it's so much easier because then I don't have to remember, what did I tell Brian? Or what did I project to this person or that person? Now it's just like, this is me. If you love me, great. If you don't, great. I've gone like how I am right now and talked to CEOs of multi-million dollar companies and got them to buy and people go, the fuck are you talking to someone like that?
I do the same thing. It's my favorite thing to walk into a boardroom with everybody all in suits and I'm in shorts and a t-shirt.
Yep.
By the way, that's like the ultimate flex too. Cause it's like, hey fuckers.
But you've earned the right to do that too.
I say that again, not without ego, but like the first time I did it, I questioned like, and then I did it and I was like, oh. And I think what you just highlighted is, again, your experience is all the things that you've trained and conditioned to be very, very, very proficient and good at are even easier when you're not armored.
100%.
There's gravity. There's instant connection. There's instant credibility. There's not, I used to have to seek people out, even in a room, and I've always been the guy that when I walked in the room, they knew I was there, even if I didn't talk. I don't not talk in many rooms though. So that's
same.
But the point is like, I know this, but there would still have to be effort when I was armored to actually establish the connection. And I don't say this with any ego because it's not true in every capacity, but I would tell you more often than not, people come to me now in a different way. And that's literally what you just described. You're like, it doesn't take any effort. It's natural. I know the reasons why, at least in my opinion. But when you look around the profile of people that you just described, ego-driven salespeople, high-level CEOs, type A alpha males, right? Why do you believe most of them are still performing?
Because that's where they get their worth. That's where they feel their love seen, heard, connected. That's where they feel they have to perform to get someone to love them. They're still the little kid screaming for love.
And so that would be the question I ask you. As a very proficient human being at relationships and connection who has a craft that is called sales, how do you break through to those people?
By trusting I'm enough, by being genuinely me no matter what, without what they can get for me. When I talk to you, I'm just genuinely curious about you. So there's not that feeling of, oh, he's trying to get me to do something.
Yeah.
And that right there is weird in my world because everyone's always has an agenda. And then proving that I don't have an agenda, which is there's nuances with it, with how you talk, what you do. I'll even use an example. Like if you go to an event and like I pay for some VIP ones and I went up and talked to a guy and he's worth 12 million. No one was talking to him. I paid to be in this room and he's standing there and he's one of the guys that you could talk to. No one's talking to him. I go up and talk to him. I didn't try and pitch him. I knew who he was. I said, yeah, I know who you are. He asked me, we did a little small talk and we just started talking about life.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem. Don't go with trying to get, go to find out because these guys are in positions or these girls are in positions of power because they've proven a point, but they're still human.
I would say that that's true for sales or getting access to anybody that has a level of exposure, prominence, right? Leadership. I say it as it's the difference between somebody wanting something from you versus for you. Right. Which is literally what you just said. But that's been a big question a lot of people have asked me. They're like, how do you have these friends? How do you have access to these? How do you do these certain things? It's like, because I don't want anything from them.
Yeah.
I see who they are as a human being and I try to connect the dots and actually pay attention to how I can even exist in their world. And by the way, do I want to exist in their world or not? Right. It's not about what I can get from them. It's about, is there alignment here? And how do I care for them in the process? I find that in and of itself can open up so many doors for people in a way that they don't realize. And I love the way that you are able to talk about it, not only from a sales perspective, but from more importantly, a relationship and connection perspective. I was just in a room not long ago, actually, and there was a conversation with somebody who asked a question about a grandkid that has some special needs that were being developed. Obviously, that hit home and close to home just with everything we've gone through with all of the neurodiversities with our kids and the challenges and all of it. And I engaged just in a conversation to help him. I'm telling this story again because your point is true and I want to just double down and reinforce it. All we did was talk about his son, his grandkid, solutions, options, ways of thinking about it, navigating. Didn't talk to him about business at all. Didn't talk to him about anything that's taking place. Come to find out this guy's personal net worth. I found out 2 days later, he just crossed over 100 million of personal net worth. He was the most grounded, accessible, humble, easygoing, lack of ego guy ever. Totally unassuming. He just crossed over $100 million of net worth and you'd never fucking know it. And what I find interesting about that is it's no different than what you just said as well. Some of the most influential, some of the most wealthy, some of the most resourceful people who can create impact and move the needles in our lives are also the most unassuming.
Always.
Almost always, right? The ego and the flash is what people pay attention to. But there is so much to be said for the people that don't have that.
Yeah.
And I was only highlighting that because the way you told that story, I was like, yes, like that is the truth. And here's the issue. Had I known he was worth $100 million 10 years ago when I cared about that type of thing, I might have engaged with him completely differently.
You would have. Yeah, 100%.
Had I known he was worth $100 million today, it wouldn't have affected a thing. It was just another reinforcement and reminder for me that it's like, oh, you never fucking know who you're talking to.
But you belong in the room and you know that. And this is the thing a lot of people don't understand. Because for years it took me to get to that point. If you're in a room, you belong in that room.
I agree.
Don't worry about it. And don't look at the net worth. Because I know people that like you that have a ton of money that I wouldn't do business with to say, well, no, I wouldn't do business, period. And then there's other people that maybe they don't right now, but what are they going to become?
Yeah.
I just treat everyone the same. I don't care about their money. I got my own money.
Agree.
I don't care. Like, I know that sounds to some people that might sound crazy, but Every level you get is different.
It doesn't. You're right. Every level you get to is different. But I also am so focused on the fact that people are people.
Mhm.
I just had coffee yesterday with a guy who is worth $50 million. Didn't know it when I met him. Guy lives in a 15,000 square foot house, like all of it, right? All the things that I used to define as success.
Yeah.
You would never have known one. But here's the other kicker. Here's the other piece I know to be true. Most people, men or women, who are in that type of a situation are so conditioned and used to more people wanting something from them than for them, which also means they often are more lonely than others. And the comment that was made to me at the coffee that I was having with this guy yesterday, I haven't seen him in 6 months. He said, Brian, you know what I've realized in the last 2 years since I've known you? What? I can talk to you about anything, things that I can't talk to anyone else about for a whole variety of reasons. And what I'm telling this story for is to reinforce the point that I don't give a fuck if we're talking about sales. I don't give a fuck if we're talking about growth and figuring out how to live our ideal lives. If we can just focus on the human that's on the other side of the conversation.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit what our agenda is. In fact, I'm hoping we have less agendas. Just talk to the person on the other side of you, whether they're homeless and in need or whether they're driving the most expensive vehicle that you could even imagine being rolled up in front of you. Be unassuming and just talk to the human in front of you.
Yeah.
Is it any more complicated than that?
No, that's perfect. That's what we should do. That's the thing that you just gave the golden ticket. They just don't catch it because they see the fake Lambo or they see the flash and they think that's going to make them happy. But a car's a car, a trip's a trip, a girl's a girl, unless you have an intimate connection with the human.
Yeah.
And it's never been that for me. Like, I've done the shit. It's not there. Like, I don't really care about cars, but I've gone on really nice trips. Like, cars have never been my thing, but trips and like that stuff, that's where people could catch me. But talking with people and finding out about them. And you said something else. If you want to connect with high network people, how can you help them? And not in a religious bullshit way, not in a I'm lower than you, but as your friend, Brian, what can I do? What's going on in your world?
Exactly.
Yes, I know you're a brilliant billionaire businessman. I don't care. Like, it's cool. We're good there. If you need help in sales, whatever. But what is it that you're dealing with? Because we all deal with our family, our life, what we want, our dreams, our hopes, and a lot of them have walls too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've also appreciated being able to witness you living in congruence and actually applying the same concept around your belief on vulnerability in the way that you show up. And so to that question, right? To care. What's your biggest challenge right now? What's the greatest area of resistance in your life?
It's still believing that people actually care and don't want something. Because I've always had to perform. And I'm so fucking good at it that people will take advantage of it unless I guide it. Because I looked at my relationship, look at my stuff. I'm like, I'm always the guy reaching out.
You are.
For the most part. I'm always the guy.
I've said that with you and I. I'm grateful when you do that with me.
But I want your relationship. So
I know.
It's different.
I know. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is you are that guy. And I've like said that to you multiple times. I lose track of time. Months can fly by. I used to be really good at that with people. I'm not anymore. I try to be. You're very good at it. And I'm grateful because you remain present in my life. Over the last 6 to 12 months in your life, how many times did you believe that somebody wanted something for you and they really wanted something from you?
Ooh. Weekly.
Really?
Different people that, because people will.
So give me an example. How does it show up for you in terms of when someone wants something from you?
Well, they'll come and they'll be like, because they know my gift of sales or they know my gift of here. And they'll come and like, hey, can you help me real quick? They know I do coaching.
Yeah.
And they
Can I
still
pick your
want
brain?
it. Yeah. Can I pick your brain? Do I want it for free? Or it's just a regular relationship because they know I'm a giver. Hey, I'm having a rough time right now. Can you help me? And I love helping people. But if you keep asking me multiple times, you're just trying to take advantage of my kindness instead of that aspect of it. And a lot of it might just be my perception because I don't trust people that well. I know I come across like I'm really connected with people, but you have to earn my trust, and it takes a very long time for you to earn my trust.
So Do I have permission to reflect something back
Yes.
to you real time?
Yes.
I didn't see this before when we were talking, but I think I think I just saw something that hopefully is helpful. How often do you give somebody an opportunity to genuinely demonstrate to you that they want for instead of from? And how often are you very clear in the boundaries that you set around your help?
I give too much. I know I do that. Like I will let people go farther than I should. So I need to fix that boundary. I do know that. I do have a long patience, but once it's done, it's gone.
Yeah.
There's no coming back. If I cut you off, we're done. I am that guy.
So where I'm going with that is you even just owned the level of armor that you still have, right? Which also means what you've heard me say this a million times. When we protect ourselves, what do?
We
disconnect ourselves, right? From being seen and understood and connected at the deepest level and from who we are and what we want.
Which goes back to the scaredness and the scared little boy that I talked about, because you can see others.
And if you operate with armor, is your life going to reflect back to you what you hope to see or what you're protecting yourself from?
What you're protecting yourself from.
So maybe the glitch in the system for you to believe is to actually operate as if it's real. And what do I mean by that? Give and lead exactly the same way you do, with some small caveats in communication. And this is I'm telling you this because this is something I have had to do and I still have to pay attention to, because you know how giving I am. I I want to help, and more than it makes sense that I do. I genuinely want to add value and help. I'm now getting very, very clear in communicating with people that I do want to help, and I can only help in an informal way so much. So I am clearly starting to drive through one or two conversations. I just had a conversation yesterday with somebody else. I gave. And I was very clear with them. They said, "Oh man, this is great. I would love to kind of connect and communicate further." You know what? I actually really value a future relationship as well. But this is also an area that I get compensated really highly for, because I'm very good at what I do. And it's easy for me to just stay in the rhythm and add value because I do it anyway. And it's very naturally, and it's what I want. And so, yes, let's continue to build our relationship, but I do have to set some parameters. If we need to go much further than maybe one or two other questions in this direction, we're going to have to contemplate what a formal path might look like in order to do so. But know that I've got your back and I'm going to help you however I can, formally or informally. Let's just figure out the right path. You need to step in and drop that armor and lead them to the point with which you're willing to give.
Yeah.
And make sure that it's clear that this is where you're willing to give before you're done. Because here's the other thing I've learned. When that boundary is clear, more people respect it than don't.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. It goes back, so I'm thinking in my head, it goes back to wanting to be seen, heard, and loved for who I am. That I know where it comes from.
I'm just trying to give you a actionable, tangible way to catch yourself in doing it now. Because to answer the question, when will you believe it? You'll believe it when you practice it and actually get it reflected back to you.
Yeah.
There are a few people that if you were very clear and direct and said, this is the limit of where I can help you. If it needs anything further than this, we need to contemplate a coaching relationship. I would bet you there is a single digit percentage of people that would try to take you further than that for free. And
I wouldn't do it.
You wouldn't. But the point is
I'm not setting the boundary enough.
That's all I'm saying.
Yep.
That's all I'm saying. So why I went there, and I'm really grateful for you to have even talked about that. You are somebody who gives so abundantly that you also deserve to not be taken advantage of, and you deserve to be recognized and have gratitude for the level that you give when you aren't required to, when you don't need to, and when you could charge people a significant amount to do things for them in the way that you do today. So I say that to you out of love, because fuck, dude. Next time, if you can't set the boundary, call me. I'll and be like, hey, can you talk to my buddy Brian? And I'll get on there and I'll be like, look, Joe's the nicest guy. He'll give away his shirt. He'll give away his clothes. He'll give away everything he ever fucking owns to help you. But if you really need his help and you really want to have the impact from his help and you want to have that help be sustainable and long lasting in your life, hire him. It's worth every penny.
You sparked a thought in my head, and it may be just the journey I'm on. It might be why I still just do corporate sales, because then I don't have to rely on anyone else, because I don't ever want to rely on anyone else. And I don't want to have to be vulnerable enough to say, oh crap, I have this.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo. It's safer. Here's the reality. You talked about corporate sales versus entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you completely. I know many corporate salespeople who make way more money than 98% of entrepreneurs ever will, right? They have more opportunity. They have less stress. They have more systems, right? Now, they also potentially have less freedom depending on the organization and the structure. However, it is also safer.
Mm-hmm.
It requires you to put yourself out there a hell of a lot less than if you are the one who's selling yourself or selling your own business and product.
Yeah. And I think in my head, it's like, well, people know and love T-Mobile. People know and love Spectrum. People know and love that.
You can hide behind the corporate brand.
Yep. But who knows and loves Joe Graham? Yeah. No, I know that. But getting to that point to do it.
I know.
And this is even contradictory because we're all contradictory at terms. Because remember, I told you I'm super big on risk. Mm-hmm. Certain risk I'll jump into all day long. Other things, oh, wait, I got to show myself.
So you're human, Joe.
I'm definitely human.
Yeah, you're definitely human. It's great. All right. So I got to ask you this as well, because I one of the other things I appreciate about you is that beyond just the friendship, we have pretty 12-year-old humor aligned. And you are on a short list of individuals that regularly we are passing silly memes and videos and shit back and forth. What role has comedy played in your life? And what are some of your 12-year-old boy outlets?
Well, we need laughter. We do life. And I'm in a high stress environment all the time. So I need something stupid or silly to zone out into. I'll play video games. I will read. I write science fiction sometimes for fun. And then I just see crazy reels. There's a stupid little dog that says, wake up, cupcake or something. And I'll send it to you because it just cracks me up. Or just stupid stuff of people falling. And I don't want them to be hurt, but I can't help but laugh because it
got caught on video. Like, we're supposed to laugh at that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, I think but you're one of the very few people I'll send it to, too, because there's most people if I send it to, they'll be like, what? You did this? Because if they're from my old days, Joe, you said a naughty word. Yeah, I said the fuck bomb 14 times. It's okay. Jesus doesn't mind. He doesn't care. Going back to that thing, I think you have to not be so caught up in how you're perceived.
Yeah.
But I'm good at that with my circle. I'm not good at that outside my circle because even I still fall for it. I still have like, oh, you're the best at this. Oh, that's great. It strokes my ego. We all have an ego. We all have the thing we want to do to be seen and heard. But is that truly me being seen and heard? Or did I hit what they said for their boxes so that they would feel good to be seen? And that's the one I'm working on.
How do you distinguish between the two?
How it feels, energy. Like that's the biggest thing. I read people's energy. I'll go woo with you on that one. Like I know typically within 5 seconds if this person's a good person or a bad person for me. Now understand that does not mean that they're just a bad person.
You said for you. You said it with intention, and that's how I heard it. So, but I'm happy you slowed down so everybody else heard it the same way. Bro, I'm not sure I've ever heard you tell me you write science fiction stories.
Well, more historical drama. So
I don't think you've ever told me that. And if you have, I'm not remembering.
It's been a few years. I wrote a story. It's been a while, actually, of a Viking like raid and a girl in Ireland named Adine getting caught and taking in her journey. And the story starts out where it's more his story, but then she transitions in, and it's in the 800s. So she's like having to empower herself that way. You have a whole short story on it. It's pretty interesting. I'm into historical drama stuff. I wrote some other like poetic, kind of deep, crazy.
I didn't know outlets. I did not know that writing was such an outlet.
Yeah, and I'm dyslexic, which is even funnier about it. So I have a hard time spelling. Not like it's not severe, like I can read well, but certain words I'm not as good at.
By the way, I'm the same way.
Yeah. So I have to go and use spell check and all, and then like grammar fixers are great for me because I don't see grammar for anything. But no, it's always been an outlet for me. And it's always been like stories and all, because I think I would be the old dude 1,000 years ago by the campfire telling fucking funny stories because I just enjoyed that. But yeah.
I love that. All right. Well, you are still discovering who you are and what you want in some ways. But based on what you know in this current moment, what's the impact? What's the legacy you're going to be leaving?
Helping people wake up to life they love living, no rules, nothing else. And no one gets to say but you. I did take that from Matt Vinton. I always like to try to give people the thing. But what do you really want to do? What makes your heart happy? What is it that you can get up each and every day and do and enjoy? Now, it does not mean you can have fun and happiness every day. There's going to be days that's just rough. That's life. But if you can get toward that every day, for me, I think that's what I want. And try stuff out. If you haven't gotten a fancy car yet and that's your thing, go do it. If you haven't done on trip yet, go do it, because you have to experience it. Brian and I can talk to you all day about it, but until you experience it, it doesn't matter. And then you go, oh, maybe sitting by a campfire, smoking a cigar and just chilling, or being on the beach, or being in the mountains. Or for me, like, I love nature and that type of stuff, and just super deep conversation. I don't like bullshit. I'm a sales guy. It's kind of funny. I don't do well at small talk.
Neither do I.
It does not work for me.
Anything that lacks depth doesn't interest me. It's so clear as day.
Yeah.
Joe, I appreciate our friendship. I appreciate you, and I'm grateful that you were with us today. If there's any closing thought that you want to leave us with, you're welcome to. If you want to send anybody anywhere in particular to follow you, learn from you, we'll have all the stuff in the show notes. But I'd love to give you at least a chance to say anything you want. If you do want to speak to the audience, speak right to that camera, bro, and speak from your heart, man.
Cool. Well, first, if you're going to find me, it's Joe Graham Real everywhere. But really, I want you to find you, because that's the key to anything in life and what life you want to live. And I don't care what that is. Take time today. Take 15 minutes a week and just start moving forward with it, because it's going to take time, because you are the sum of all your decisions. So when you finally learn to accept who you are, that you're loved, that you're needed, and that is okay to be you, that's where the magic starts to happen. And Brian, thank you for letting me be on the show and jamming with you. I love you. I'm super happy to always hang out with you.
I love you too, brother. I'm grateful for our friendship, and it's just the beginning. So yeah, it's going to be fun. And for those of you that just saw Joe jump in and flip open his lid, I mean, at the end of the day, whether we're talking relationships, we're talking sales, we're talking life, we're talking podcasting, we're talking any of it, it comes down to the questions that you're willing to ask yourself and willing to ask of others. It comes down to how consistent and disciplined are you willing to be in your pursuit of what you want to accomplish? When do you start to realize that you have been living your life in ways that you're not even conscious to, that were based on other people's standards and other people's ideas? At what point do you start asking yourself the questions to give yourself permission to step into who you are? And Joe talked about not only the transition that he's done in doing so and helping others in the same process, but the fact that, again, there is no final destination. But we can continue to be curious. We can continue to wonder. And the reality of it is, the easiest way to be is just who you are. And everything that you think you want, or everything that you believe you want to become, will ultimately start to be a gravity that you attract yourself to and is attracted to you. But it's going to require you to be honest with yourself and flip open your lid and scan your can.
What you can probably tell by now is that I love telling these stories, but what I love even more is the impact that's coming from them. You see, we're on a mission to impact over 1 billion lives as quickly as possible. But to do that, we need you. See, we believe that moved people move people. And so all I'm asking is, if you've resonated, connected with any of the messaging, please consider commenting, sharing, leave a rating and review. Thank you so much for tuning into Flipping the Lid. And if you want more information on the show, how to become a guest, how to recommend a guest, or any of the other details, head over to flippingthelid.com. We'll see you there.